when it got to that moment when Braxton told you, like, honey, we're gonna go on strike, how did it feel to hear that? When you knew that they were gonna be going out, they're gonna be dealing with this battle. How did that impact you and the kids?
I honestly think we're glad. Like, I wasn't upset about it. I was glad that they were finally doing something to make it better. Because it had been so bad for 5 years. The hope of making something better was worth the risk of losing money.
On April 1st, 1,100 union coal miners in Brookwood, Alabama went out on an unfair labor practices strike against Warrior Met Coal.
Take a look at this, Warrior Met! We are in solidarity. We're standing here in unity. I pledge to you from the top all the way down to here that I'll stand with you. We're going to fight and we're going to win this battle because we stand in solidarity.
For 3 months, these workers and their families have put everything on the line, facing economic hardship, social stigma, and even physical assault on the picket line. But their determination to withstand the hazards and strains of a long, contentious strike highlights the seriousness of the issues that prompted the strike in the first place.
Dignity. I mean, believe it or not, they want to be treated with dignity at the workforce, at the work site. I mean, it's 7 days a week, not knowing you got a day off with your family, 14 days in a row, 21 days in a row. It's not like they're asking for, $50 an hour. It's more like, hey, I'm a human being. I know I got to have a job. I know I got to pay my bills, but I've got a family. 1 day a week with my family means a lot. If it's Sunday or if it's Saturday, but let me have a day that I can tell my family, I'm going to be with you this day.
For 5 years, miners at Warrior Met Coal have been working under a subpar contract that they were forced to accept after their previous employer went bankrupt. For 5 years, that contract has meant longer hours, fewer days off, less pay, and fewer benefits. More than anything, as miners and their families argue, that contract has meant a total lack of respect for the basic humanity of the people who have made Warrior Met Coal profitable.
We're just here to get our message out that we just want fair benefits. It's nothing outrageous. We want them to have their holidays off at home. We want comparable pay to the other ones in the area. And we don't want them to get fired if they have to come with us to the hospital.
Whenever any group of workers goes out on strike, they're never alone. As the saying goes, it takes a village. And it has taken a village to keep the Warrior Met strike going for all these months. And the lion's share of that necessary support work has come from the striking miners' wives. I traveled to West Blocton, a small town near the mines, and met with 5 women, all married to striking miners, some of whom are also the daughters and granddaughters of miners. These women have thrown themselves into organizing strike support, spreading the word about the strike, and keeping the union strike pantry stocked.
But he's always wanted to be a coal miner. Like, you can look in his high school yearbook. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Working my life away at the coal mine. Like, that's just what he always wanted to do. He can be upset about what's going on, the pay and all that, but at the end of the day, he stands for it because that's what he wants to do. Because he wants to be a coal miner.
I personally never pictured myself being a coal miner's wife. I didn't grow up in this area. I didn't understand the pride in it. I didn't kind of grow up in that. So when I married him and he was a coal miner and just getting started, I didn't understand it. Going through layoffs and seeing the guys stick together and seeing kind of the longer he's been a coal miner and the longer I've been a coal miner's wife, kind of seeing why those people fought before and seeing what our guys are going through and seeing that from the outside kind of coming into it has made me proud of it. Like, it's kind of a thing, like, I always want my kids to, if you see an injustice, if you see something wrong, stand up for it.
Along with carrying on a proud tradition, for union coal miners and their families, working in the mines has traditionally provided the means to live a decent life, especially in areas where economic opportunities are scarce.
It was just a good job. At the time, it was a different company now, so it was a really good job, and I wasn't working, so it was what he needed to support us at the time.
But at the center of the strike at Warrior Met is a crucial question that any of us can relate to. How decent can one's life really be when work leaves no room for living it?
It's always been a hard labor job, like a lot of hours, but a lot of it used to be more optional, not mandatory. So there used to always, a double time on working on Sundays. They would, when they needed to, they'd go in and get that double time. But it's just not, they don't want to because they have to be there 6 days.
And see, really, before the bankruptcy, the pay was so good and the benefits were so good, a lot of the wives didn't work at all. So that had already started to change 5 years ago. They'd had to take on some type of part-time job because they had cut the pay and the benefits and the time off to where the wives had to go back to work as well, which that meant kids that were used to having someone at home with them, they had to adjust too to now both of our parents have to work.
Even before they signed that contract with Warrior Met, being married to a coal miner in Brookwood, Alabama wasn't easy.
So what's the toughest thing about being married to a coal miner?
Time shopping from
Oh,
your
list.
family, basically. Yeah, the list is
The
endless.
absentee part.
6 days a week, mandatory.
Yeah. I think that's an adjustment to feeling like, and especially kind of growing up with my husband from getting married pretty young to going through it, like, it's an adjustment marriage anyway and all of that, but then going to 6 days a week, he's underground, there's no reaching him, if there's a water break, if there's an emergency, it has to be an emergency, like medical emergency, to call and get a hold of him. So we have to handle everything above ground. Anything
You learn how
happens,
to
it's
fend for
us.
yourself.
Yeah. So you become very independent. So I mean, there's a good part to that too. I think all coal miner wives, we're pretty strong. Like we raise our kids pretty much alone during the week.
I was actually sick, really sick, and I had to stay overnight in the hospital. I couldn't call him because he would have got a strike and he couldn't afford it because I had been sick, for so long. He used to. So my mom had my kids and I spent the night, by myself in the hospital. And with the old contract, I wouldn't have had to.
Miners' working conditions are their families' living conditions. Every minute stolen by work in the mines is a minute added to the work of raising families and running households above ground.
So I mean, you learn to adapt as a wife. You learn to adapt. Like you roll with it, and you take care of your business and you keep going.
I mean, it feels like it. I mean, I've never been single, so I don't know. But just assuming that it feels like a single life because, I mean, you go to doctor appointments by yourself.
Yeah.
You take the kids pretty much everywhere by yourself. Like, Chad works day shift, so he's going to miss anything that's during the day. He can't, like our husbands, stay up.
Like lose lack of sleep.
Yeah.
To be
So it's a lose-lose, pretty much.
Yeah, it's hard because you're basically in charge of running your house, and because we have to work too, especially under this contract, by the time you're working full time and you're at home and you have the kids and you don't have time. Like there is no such thing as we have like a date night. When you see people post that, that's not something we have time to do because the little bit of time he has off is family time because you want your kids to be able to spend time with their dad. And even like T-ball and things like that, people don't realize, like I helped coach my daughter's T-ball team. I didn't play softball, but he had to work. When he has to be there and leave at 6, and their practices started at 6 o'clock, he only even got to come to a few games, and that was if they were in Brookwood, so he could come before work and then leave early.
The ongoing motto of the strike at Warrior Met Coal is one day longer, one day stronger. While the powerful executives and managers of the Wall Street hedge funds that power Warrior Met continue to hope that the strike will fizzle out, an even more powerful network of spouses, families, and community members back in Alabama are doing everything they can to hold the line.
As soon as there's any kind of little thing going on, like, hey, we're doing a fundraiser, we're doing this, you're going to see not just people out in the community, which they do that too, but us, like all of the other miners jump in, and even if it's a little bit, you do what you can to just jump in on that.
coal miners' wives don't have jobs because the income was enough to support your whole family. So I felt the need to do a raffle just because it would give money to a account that maybe if somebody needed groceries or pay a bill or, and it's nothing big. Like, I mean, it's a small drop in the bucket for what's needed, but I just felt like it was something that I could do to be a part of it.
It's easy to, worry about the money and complain about the money, but, we have to, help them remember that, they are doing the right thing.
Country music icon Loretta Lynn introduced mainstream America to the avatar of the proud coal miner's daughter. But women of all ages have long formed the bedrock of coal mining communities across the country. Mothers, grandmothers, daughters, and sisters have built generations of life in the coal fields, and during times of strike and strife, fought side by side with their men when the boss's goons came in with guns blazing. Through the UMWA Auxiliary and the Daughters of Mother Jones before them, these women are carrying on that fighting spirit.
They actually stood on the line with the men. They weren't just bringing food and doing a phone trade. They were actively involved in striking. They were blocking the roads. They were on the picket lines. If they would get arrested, they made it harder. When they ask who you are Mother Jones. So it made the company a whole lot harder to control that. So that's the energy that we want to bring back, that we're not just going to stand there silent on the sidelines and be at home with the kids in the kitchen. We want to be out and seen and visible and vocal too. Because the people need to know that and the company needs to know that. When a man works for Warrior Met, the family works for Warrior Met. It affects everyone. Not just the man, it's your entire family signs that contract. Because when they're gone, we're having numerous jobs at home because we have to. We have to support the household while they support the income. And Warrior Met doesn't seem to understand that. That when they did this to the men, they did it to the women and they did it to our families. And women can be a whole lot more vicious when you attack our families than men can.
A strike is only as strong as the solidarity and determination holding it together. And it has taken a tremendous amount of both to keep the strike at Warrior Met going for 3 long months. And much like their husbands on the picket line, these women have found strength in supporting one another.
The wives as a whole just wanted something to show our efforts, but we needed each other too, as much as our husbands needed us.
There are only about 44,000 coal miners left in the United States, and it's no secret that coal is on the decline. But to live with dignity is every worker's right, and that is ultimately what the strike at Warrior Met Coal is about. Regardless of your feelings about coal and fossil fuels in general, the mining families in Brookwood have a simple request: to be seen, to be heard, and to be treated with respect.
I just think the big picture is just see us, see the people behind the cause. See my husband out in the field coaching 12 girls and having a blast and them respecting him and him getting his time in that. See a husband who takes his kids to go get ice cream while his wife is doing something, see our families, see the legacy behind it too. See the grandfather that supported how many kids? 15 kids, and how some of them became coal miners and their daughters married coal miners. Just see us and listen and just listen, because we're listening too.